your English podcast.
Hello, everyone, and a massive, energetic welcome back to your English podcast.
Hello.
We are so thrilled to have you with us today, whether you are maybe stuck in traffic, maybe you're out for a run, or you're just settling in with a cup of coffee.
We're really glad you're here.
We really are.
And, today's topic is one of those things that every single person who has ever tried to learn a second language has felt this.
Oh, 100%.
It's universal, it can be really painful, and it's so important to talk about.
It really is. But before we dive in, and we are going deep today, let's do a quick identity check for anyone new who might be joining us. So I wanted to start today by sort of checking in on this feeling. I was thinking about it, and it hit me that this isn't just about, learning in a school sense.
No, not at all.
It's about identity. It's about how we show ourselves to the world.
It is. It's about who you are when you open your mouth and maybe who you become when you just can't.
Exactly. And there's this very specific, very painful phenomenon that I think almost everyone listening has felt. It's that moment where you're consuming English, you're watching a film, listening to a podcast just like this one, and you feel great.
You're nodding along.
Yeah, you get the nuance, you get the humor, you understand everything. You feel fluent.
You feel like you finally arrived. The input, it's all processing perfectly. Your brain is just firing on all cylinders.
You've got what we could call input mastery. But then the scene changes.
Right.
You walk into a coffee shop, a meeting starts, and someone looks at you and they ask a really simple question.
What did you do this weekend?
Or what do you think of this cap? And just like that, the lights go out.
We call that the passive trap.
It's total paralysis. The words that were right there in your head, the grammar inside and out, it's just evaporated. You freeze up. You might get out a yes or a no, but that complex thought you had is just, it's trapped.
It's the great paradox of language learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, is the most heartbreaking part.
It is.
Because you know that you know it. This isn't an ignorance problem. It's an access problem.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like you're standing inside your own house in a library full of books that you own, but the door is locked and you've somehow swallowed the key.
That is a terrifying image, but it's so accurate. And that's really our mission today. We are not here to give you another vocabulary list. We're not just going to tell you to try harder. We're here to figure out how to tear that door down.
We need to look at the psychology, the neuroscience, and even the hidden cultural walls that cause that freeze.
Exactly.
And I want to be really clear from the get-go. This is not about just be more confident. That's such cheap advice.
Useless advice.
Right. Telling someone who is drowning to just swim better doesn't help.
Yeah.
We need to look at why the brain slams on the emergency brake.
Because there are real reasons for it.
There are real biological and psychological reasons for that silence.
So consider this a judgment-free zone. We're going to unpack this whole thing, lay it all out, and figure out how to actually break that silence.
And, even very advanced speakers, people with certificates on their walls, they struggle with this specific barrier.
Sometimes it's even worse for them, right?
It can be. The expectations are so much higher, so the pressure is immense.
All right, so let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first major hurdle, the first thing we really need to talk about is what I like to call the structural shock. It's this deep feeling that English just feels wrong.
It feels wrong because for so many learners, Their brain is literally fighting its own instincts. We have to talk about rewiring.
I always think of it like driving. If you're used to driving on the right side of the road.
Sure, like in the US or most of Europe.
Exactly. And suddenly you land in the UK and you have to drive on the left. You know the rules, theoretically. You know how a car works, but your instincts.
Your instincts are screaming at you.
They're screaming that you're about to have a head-on collision every single second.
That's a perfect analogy. When we learn our first language, we're not just learning words, we're creating these deep neural pathways that organize reality for us.
They're like highways in the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're the superhighways. So when you step into English, you're not just swapping out words, you're swapping out the entire logic system. You're forcing your brain to go off-road.
Let's get specific, though, because logic can sound a bit abstract.
Good idea.
One of the first things I've noticed that really, really trips people up is how rigid the English sentence structure is.
Yes. The subject-verb-object order in English it's sacred.
It's the holy trinity of our grammar.
It is.
But in so many other languages, Russian or even Latin-based languages to some degree, you can move words all over the place to change the emphasis.
Right. It's much more flexible, much more fluid. You can put the object first, the verb last, and the sentence still makes perfect sense.
Why is that? How does that work?
Well, in what we call a highly inflected language, the word endings do all the work. They tell you who is doing what to whom.
So the grammar is like a tag on the word itself.
Exactly. So you can say, the ball I kicked, or kick the ball and it's still grammatically correct. It's like jazz. You can improvise with the structure.
And English is what? A marching band.
English is architectural. It's rigid. It's like engineering. If you move the subject, you don't just change the emphasis.
No, you often completely destroy the meaning.
Or, even worse, you accidentally turn a statement into a question.
You are here.
Versus, are you here?
Exactly. Just moving one tiny word changes everything. And the learner's brain knows this. It senses that the stakes are incredibly high.
Right. So when someone from a flexible language background tries to speak English, it feels like they're wearing a straitjacket. They can't just flow.
They have to build every sentence. They have to be an architect before they even open their mouth.
And that gets into this idea of cognitive load, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Tell us about that.
Well, cognitive load theory basically says that our working memory, the part of our brain that's juggling information right now, has a very limited capacity.
Okay.
When you speak your native language, the structure is automatic. It takes up zero space, zero load. But in English, if you're constantly checking, is the verb in the right place? Did I put the subject first?
You're using up all your processing power just on the blueprint.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're not just thinking about what to say. You're acting as your own real-time structural engineer.
And that engineering, it takes so much energy.
It does. And while your brain is busy verifying the word order, you're not really listening to the other person anymore. You withdraw. You go silent because you have to process all that data.
Your brain is just, it's overwhelmed. It's not that you don't have the words.
It's that your RAM is full.
Your mental RAM is at 100% usage, just trying to keep the sentence from falling apart.
Exactly.
But there's another layer to the structural shock that I find so fascinating, and it's almost the complete opposite problem.
What's that?
The gender trap.
Oh, this is a big one. And it's so counterintuitive.
Right, it really is.
Because English, for the most part, doesn't have grammatical gender for nouns. We don't have masculine tables and feminine chairs.
Which, on paper, should make English so much easier.
It should be a relief.
You don't have to memorize if a table is a he or a she. It's just it.
But for learners coming from languages that do have gender, French, Spanish, German, Slavic languages, this absence, it creates a void.
A void. Explain that.
It creates a sense of insecurity. It feels like something is missing. When you're used to a language where every single noun belongs to a team or a category, English just feels slippery.
It feels too simple.
Too simple, almost. And that can trigger this weird psychological effect.
I think I know what you're getting at. It's the everything is difficult mindset.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because the sentence structure is so fundamentally different, learners start to assume that everything in English must be hard.
So if there are no genders,
They think, well, there must be some other secret rule that I don't know yet. It can't possibly be this simple.
you're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
They are waiting for the trap to spring, so they hesitate. They're searching for a complexity that isn't even there. And that hesitation is what stops the flow of speech.
They're paralyzed by the simplicity because their brain is wired for complexity.
Yes. It creates a mental block before they even try. They're playing defense against a rule that doesn't exist.
Wow. That's like walking into an empty room and being afraid because there's nowhere to hide.
That is a beautiful way to put it. And speaking of hiding, that leads us perfectly into the next big enemy of speaking.
The thing that makes us want to hide the most.
Perfectionism.
The perfectionism myth.
I feel like we need some dramatic music for that.
We do. It deserves it because it is a tragedy. We really need a reality check here. Learners often hold themselves to this standard of, native level perfection. But here is the secret.
Native speakers are not perfect.
We are messy. We break rules all the time. We slur our words. We abandon sentences halfway through a thought.
But learners don't always hear that, do they? They hear the standard English in their heads, the perfect textbook English, and they compare their own real-time speech to that impossible ideal.
I want to push back on that a bit because I can hear someone listening right now thinking, okay, sure, but you're a native speaker. If I make a mistake, I just sound stupid.
That's a very fair point.
Yeah.
And it feels true. But let's look at the data. Let's look at the linguistics of it.
Okay.
There's a big distinction between linguistic competence, which is knowing the rules, and communicative competence.
Which is getting your idea across.
Exactly. Getting the idea from your brain into someone else's.
So you can have perfect linguistic competence.
Yeah.
You can ace every grammar test, but be a terrible communicator.
Oh, absolutely. You can be robotic, cold, technically flawless, but just boring.
And on the flip side, you can completely butcher the grammar and still be the most charismatic, engaging person in the room.
Because you have rhythm. Because you have confidence.
Because you are focused on connecting with the other person, not on your own sentence structure.
Connection over correction. I love that.
Let's use a specific example of this because I think people really need to hear just how bad native speakers can be. You brought up a great one earlier, the conditional past perfect.
The bane of every English student's existence. I would have eaten.
I would have eaten. Correct. It uses the past participle.
But if you go to a coffee shop in America, or you just listen to people talking casually, how often do you hear, oh man, I was so hungry, I would have ate that whole thing.
Constantly. All the time. I would have ate. I would have went. I should have did.
It is grammatically incorrect. It is non-standard.
Yeah, but millions of native speakers say it every single day.
And here's the kicker. Nobody stops the conversation.
No.
The grammar police don't show up and arrest them. The meaning is understood perfectly.
And that is the crucial point. If native speakers are breaking these big rules and still communicating effectively, why are learners so terrified of a tiny grammar slip?
Why do they freeze over using in versus at?
When a native speaker is over there just murdering the past participle without a second thought,
It's because we're taught to see language learning as a test, not as a tool.
yes. Communication versus accuracy.
I always say this. The goal of language is connection. It's about moving an idea from my mind to your mind. It's not about passing a multiple choice test.
I couldn't agree more. And obsessing over that perfect grammar, it just halts the flow of speech. It turns a conversation into a math problem.
And you're sitting there trying to calculate all the variables while the other person is just waiting for you to say something.
So let me ask you, if you're listening right now, be honest with yourself. Have you ever stayed quiet, just smiled and nodded because you weren't 100% sure of the grammar?
You had an idea, you had a joke, you had something to add.
But you killed it. You killed the thought because you weren't sure if it was make a mistake or do a mistake.
And in that moment of silence, you didn't save yourself from a mistake. You robbed yourself of a connection. You robbed the other person of your thought.
And hey, if you want more of these kinds of deep dives into the psychology of learning, where we really get into the messy reality of it, please subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, we want to keep having these conversations with you. And subscribing is the best way to make sure you don't miss out on the tools to fix this.
Absolutely. We have so much more to cover.
But moving on from that,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about the structure, we've talked about perfectionism, but there's something even more primal at play here.
Fear.
Just raw fear.
The paralyzing power of fear and judgment. And this is a personal one for me, but I know you have a story about this too.
I do. And it's a little embarrassing, but I think it's important to share because I'm supposed to be the expert, right? But I'm still human.
Of course.
I remember years ago, I was learning a second language, and I was at a dinner party. I was feeling pretty good, pretty confident, and I tried to make a comparison. I wanted to use a comparative adjective.
Okay, something pretty basic.
Yeah.
Bigger than or better than.
Exactly, and I messed it up. I think I used the superlative instead of the comparative, or maybe the wrong ending. I don't even remember the exact mistake now.
Or you remember the feeling.
Oh, I remember the feel. I saw the other person's eyes just flicker
Yeah.
for a fraction of a second.
The flicker. I know that flicker.
It might have just been confusion on their part, a moment of trying to understand me. But to me, in that moment, my face went hot. I felt this wave of acute embarrassment.
It wasn't just, oops, I made a mistake.
No, it was shame. It felt like shame. I stopped the sentence halfway through. I just trailed off into silence.
You retreated.
I completely retreated.
Fair.
I felt like that person wasn't just hearing a grammar mistake. I felt like they were judging my intelligence. I felt like a child. I felt small. And I barely spoke for the rest of the night.
That is such a powerful story because it shows how high the stakes feel in our own minds.
They feel huge.
We tie our grammar to our IQ. We think, if I speak like a child, they will think I think like a child.
Exactly. And that is the psychological trap.
I have to admit, I deal with this too. Even as a host, even in English sometimes. I used to think everyone was a critic.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone was walking around with a little red pen, just waiting to mark up my every word.
It's what psychologists call the spotlight effect. We're convinced that everyone is looking at us, analyzing us, judging us.
But they're not, are they?
Not at all. They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about what they're going to say next. They're worried if they have spinach in their teeth.
I had this epiphany a few years ago about this. It sounds like a cliche, but it's true. If I don't try, I don't progress.
Right.
Silence is actually worse than making a mistake.
That's a bold statement. Why do you say it's worse?
Because silence gives you zero opportunity for feedback. If I say the wrong word, you can correct me. I learn something. I get data.
Mm-hmm.
If I say nothing, I stay ignorant. And I stay lonely.
That is so profound. Silence is a dead end. A mistake is maybe a detour, but at least you're still moving.
Exactly. So how do we reframe this feeling of being judged?
We have to stop thinking of mistakes as moral failings. They are not sins. They're just data points.
Data points. I like that. It's very scientific. It takes the emotion out of it.
It does. Every mistake tells you exactly what to focus on next. Did you mess up a tense? Great. Now you know what to review tonight. Did you mispronounce a vowel? Excellent. You have a clear target for your practice.
Don't be ashamed of the data. Use it to calibrate your next attempt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to throw this out to you listening again. Think about a time that fear stopped you from speaking. What did you lose in that moment?
A laugh, a new friend, maybe a job opportunity.
Every single word you manage to speak out loud is a victory against that fear. It doesn't matter if the grammar is messy. The act of speaking itself is the win.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of things that are messy,
Let's
talk about the absolute minefield that is English pronunciation.
I know we go.
Because sometimes your brain is ready, your fear is gone, but your mouth just refuses to cooperate.
This is where the visual versus audio disconnect really, really hurts people.
English is famous for this. I call it the visual lie.
I like that.
It's a language where the spelling is basically gaslighting you. It's telling you one thing and the sound is something else entirely.
It is. It's historical baggage wrapped up in layers of confusion. We have spelling from the 1400s and pronunciation from the 2000s, and they never had a meeting.
So you look at a word on a page and your brain says, okay, I know these letters. I know how this should sound. And then you hear a native speaker say it, and it's completely different.
And that just destroys a learner's confidence to read aloud, or even to use words they've learned from books.
It creates this massive insecurity gap. You know the word visually, but you are terrified to audioize it.
There's a term for this. It's called orthographic anxiety.
Orthographic anxiety. I love that.
It means the written form of the language makes you anxious about the spoken form.
Okay, let's look at some examples because this is where it gets crazy. We have to talk about the off words.
The infamous off words.
If you were designing a language from scratch and you did this, you would be fired on the spot.
Immediately.
Okay, so you have though. Though. It ends with an O sound, like go.
Okay, simple enough.
Then you have through, same ending, through, but now it makes an oo sound, like blue.
Right. Already confusing.
And there's thought, though. Now it's an aw sound, like caught.
And just for fun, let's throw in tough.
Tough, tough. Now it makes an sound. They look like they should be cousins.
But they sound like they're from different planets.
Yeah.
And there is no logical way, just by looking at the letters, to predict that unless you've already heard it.
And this is why people freeze. They stand on the edge of a word like through, and they think, is it throw? Is it throff?
And the monitor in their brain just slams the door shut before they can make a mistake.
So what's the strategy here? What's the fix? Because you can't always have a teacher next to you whispering the phonetics in your ear.
No. You have to learn to become your own feedback loop.
I always recommend a technique that is a little painful at first, but it is so necessary.
What is it?
Recording yourself.
Oh, it is painful.
Yeah.
Nobody likes the sound of their own voice.
Nobody. I hate listening back to these deep dives sometimes. But for a learner, recording your voice on your phone, maybe reading a paragraph and then playing it back, it's pure magic.
Why do you think it works so well? Beyond just hearing your own mistakes.
Because when we speak, we hear our own voice mostly through bone conduction in our skull.
Right.
So it sounds richer, deeper. We think we sound like, I don't know, a movie star.
And then we hear the recording,
Uh-huh.
which is how the rest of the world hears us, through air conduction.
And we realize we sound completely different. We hear that we missed the intonation completely, or that our stress on a word was all wrong.
By recording and then comparing it directly to a native speaker's audio, like a podcast or an audiobook, you can actually hear the gap. You can hear the delta between what you think you sound like and what you actually sound like.
That's the key. Self-correction of intonation and stress. You can't fix what you can't hear. You have to externalize your voice to be able to critique it objectively.
That's great advice.
Now, we've covered structure, fear, pronunciation, but there's one more barrier. And this one is almost invisible. You can't find it in any grammar book.
A cultural barrier.
It's not just about the words, is it?
No,
Yeah.
not at all. You can have perfect grammar, a huge vocabulary, and flawless pronunciation, and still be completely lost.
Why?
Because you're missing the context. You're missing the shared reality of the culture.
This is the classic, why is everyone laughing and I'm not moment.
Exactly. Humor, idioms, slang, cultural references. These things are so deeply cultural.
Yeah.
They're built in a shared history, shared TV shows, shared childhoods.
And if you didn't grow up in that culture, they can just feel alien.
They can feel completely strange.
I have a specific story about this that I think illustrates it perfectly. I remember hearing a joke once. It was a classic, very silly dad joke.
Oh, I love a good dad joke.
The joke was, a family of tomatoes is walking down the street. The baby tomato is falling behind. So the papa tomato walks back, squishes him, and says, ketchup.
It's so dumb. I love it.
It is. It's silly. It's a little violent. It's a pun. But I was with a friend who was learning English. A very smart guy, very high level.
Okay.
He understood the word tomato. He understood walking. He even knew what ketchup was.
The sauce, sure.
But when everyone in the group laughed, he just froze. He was completely lost.
He didn't get it.
He didn't understand why it was funny. He didn't have the cultural context to know that ketchup sounds like the phrase ketchup.
The pun, the phonological ambiguity.
The wordplay. To him, it was just a story about a violent vegetable father. He was confused. And in that moment, he felt totally isolated.
That's a perfect example.
Everyone else was laughing and bonding over this silly little joke, and he was on the outside trying to figure out the sociology of tomato violence.
He had all the linguistic data, he knew the definitions, but he was missing the cultural key that unlocked the joke.
And that feeling of isolation, of being on the outside looking in, that can make you want to stop speaking.
It makes you feel like you'll never really be part of the tribe.
It makes you feel like I'll never truly belong here.
But the lesson there isn't to just give up. It's to realize that learning the culture of the language is just as important as learning the grammar.
You have to consume the culture.
You have to watch the bad sitcoms, listen to the silly jokes, and ask people to explain them. Be curious.
We actually love exploring these cultural oddities on the show. So if you enjoy uncovering the weird side of English with us, the puns, the idioms, the strange habits, you should really consider subscribing.
Yeah, it's the best way to get that cultural context so you're not the one looking confused at the tomato joke.
Absolutely. Context is king. So we've been on quite a journey today. We've really dissected this freeze from every possible
We
angle.
certainly have. We've looked at the neurology, the psychology, the whole thing.
So let's summarize the battle plan, because we don't want to just leave people with the problems. We want to arm them.
Right. We identified the enemies. First, there's the structural shock.
The fact that English just requires a different wiring in your brain, and that creates a huge cognitive load.
Second, we have the perfectionism myth. The ridiculous idea that you have to be better than a native speaker to even open your mouth.
Then the fear of judgment, the paralysis of feeling like you're being graded, and the realization that the spotlight isn't really on you after all.
Fourth was the pronunciation minefield. That visual versus audio disconnect and the orthographic anxiety.
And finally, the cultural gaps, the jokes and the context that don't translate literally.
That is a formidable army of enemies.
It really is. But what's the core message here? If someone listening takes away just one single thing today, what should it be?
The core message has to be that mistakes are not failures. They are the mechanism of growth.
Yeah, the engine.
They are the engine. You cannot learn to speak without speaking badly first. You have to be willing to be the bad speaker for a while in order to become the good speaker.
You have to embrace the mess.
You have to embrace the mess. Don't wait for perfection. It doesn't exist. I guarantee you we're making mistakes right now somewhere in this recording.
Oh, probably. So here's our challenge to you listening. Take one small step today.
Not tomorrow. Today.
Send that voice note you've been avoiding. Order that coffee in English. Go speak to your cat in English if you have to.
Just break the silence. The silence is the enemy, not the grammar mistakes.
And we really want to hear from you. Do you have a trick that helps you speak up? A hack for overcoming that fear?
Let us know in the comments or send us a message. We learn from you just as much as you learn from us.
We really do. Community is how we get through this. It helps to know you're not the only one who freezes.
You're definitely not alone.
Thank you so much for listening to your English podcast today. We hope you feel a little braver after this.
And a little more ready to speak up. Remember, every small step brings you closer to fluency. See you next time.